The Using of Emotion by Annie Besant, read by Dave Marsland of Cardiff Theosophical Society. The Using of Emotion. Only he can use an emotion who has become its master, and who knows that the emotions are not himself, but are playing in the vehicles in which he dwells, and are due to the interaction between the self and the not-self. Their ever-changing nature marks them as belonging to the vehicles. They are stirred into activity by things without, answered to by the consciousness within. The attribute of consciousness that gives rise to emotions is bliss, and pleasure and pain are the motions in the desire vehicle caused by the contacts of the outer world, and by the response through it to these of the self as bliss, just as thoughts are the motions due to similar contacts and to the response to them of the self as knowledge. As the self knows itself and distinguishes itself from its vehicles, it becomes ruler of the emotions, and pleasure and pain become equally modes of bliss. As progress is made, it will be found that greater equilibrium is attained under stress of pleasure and pain, and that the emotions no longer upset the balance of the mind. So long as pleasure elates and pain paralyzes, so that the performance of duty is hindered and hampered, so long is a man the slave and not the ruler of his emotions. When he has learned to rule them, the greatest wave of pleasure, the keenest sting of pain, can be felt, and yet the mind will remain steady and address itself calmly to the work in hand. Then whatever comes is turned into use. Out of pain is gained power, as out of pleasure is gained vitality and courage. All become forces to help, instead of obstacles to hinder. Of these uses, oratory may serve as an illustration. You hear a man fired by passion, his words tumbling over each other, his gestures violent. He is possessed by, carried away by emotion, but he does not sway his audience. The orator who sways is the master of his emotions and uses them to affect his audience. His words are deliberate and well chosen, even in the rush of his speech. His gestures appropriate and dignified. He is not feeling the emotions, but he has felt them, and he now uses his past to shape the present. In proportion as a speaker has felt and has risen above his emotions, will be his power to use them. A more effective explosion results from a careful arrangement of the explosives and a deliberate application of the match than by flinging them down anyhow and the match after them in the hope that something may catch. So long as anyone is stirred by the emotions, the clear vision needed for helpful service is blurred. The valuable helper is the man who is calm and balanced while full of sympathy. What sort of doctor would he be who, in the midst of performing an operation, should burst into tears? Yet many people are so distressed by the sight of suffering that their whole being is shaken by it, and they thus increase the suffering instead of relieving it. All emotion causes strong vibrations, and these pass from one to another. The effective helper must be calm and steady, remaining unshaken and radiating peace. One who stands on a rock above the waves can help another gain that vantage ground better than if he were himself battling the waves. Another use of the emotions when they are thoroughly in hand is to call up and use the appropriate one to rouse in another person an emotion beneficial to him. If a person be angry, the natural answer to his vibrations is anger in the one he meets, for all vibrations tend to be sympathetically reproduced. As we all have emotional bodies, any body vibrating near us in a particular way tends to cause similar vibrations in us if we have in our bodies the appropriate matter. Anger awakens anger, love awakens love, gentleness awakens gentleness. When we are masters of our emotions and feel the surge of anger rising in response to the vibrations of anger in another, we shall at once check this answer and shall let the waves of anger dash up against us while we remain unmoved. The man who can hold his own emotion body quiet, while those of others are vibrating strongly around him, has learned well the lesson of self-control. When this is done, he is ready to take the next step, to meet the vibration of an evil emotion with the vibration of the corresponding good emotion, and thus he not only withholds himself from anger, but sends out vibrations that tend to quiet the anger vibrations of the other. He answers anger by love, wrath by gentleness. At first, this answer must be deliberate, of set purpose, and angry people can be taken to practice on. When one comes in our way, we utilise him. The attempt will be doubtless cold and dry in the beginning, with only the will to love in it and none of the emotion. But after a while, the will to love will produce a little emotion, and at last a habit will be established, and kindness will be the spontaneous answer to unkindness. The steady, deliberate practice of answering thus the vibrations of wrong emotions reaching us from outside will establish a habit in the emotional body, and it will respond rightly automatically. The teaching of all the great masters of ethics is the same. Return good for evil, and the teaching is based on this interchange of vibrations caused by love and hate emotions. The return of evil intensifies it, while the return of good neutralizes the evil. To stir love emotions in others by sending to them a stream of such emotions, so as to stimulate all that is good in them and to weaken all that is bad, is the highest use to which we can put our emotions in daily human service. It is a good plan to bear in mind a list of correspondences in emotions and to practice accordingly, answering pride by humility, discourtesy by compassion, arrogance by submission, harshness by gentleness, irritability by calmness. This is a nature built up which answers all evil emotions by the corresponding good ones, and which acts as a benediction on all around, lessening the evil in them and strengthening the good.